Now, turning to consumer durables, is your air conditioner becoming expensive in the summer of 2023? We ask this question because China's COVID cases, that surge that we are seeing in COVID cases in China, have Indian manufacturers in a bind. They're rather worried right now. Executives at some of the top Indian manufacturing companies of consumer durables are watching the developments in China rather closely. There are reasons for this. For instance, many Indian companies are very heavily dependent on China for components, for the kind of components that go into the compressors of our air conditioners. And if supply chain disruptions actually do happen, then the production of other durables like LED TVs could also get hampered. Also, the holiday season in China is just around the corner, and this, along with the extremely high number of COVID cases, could actually prove to be a trouble point. In fact, we had a word about this with Maruti Suzuki India's Shashank Srivastav. He says that the semiconductor shortage was what really affected their performance in December, and their performance was hampered anywhere between 5 and 10%. Listen into what he said first.
I would guess that the total impact of the semiconductor on the production would have been in that about a 5 to 10% level, because while the industry has achieved a level of about 94-95% of the overall production levels since this problem of semiconductor came in August of 2021, we still have this problem continuing for many of the models, and that 5% balance that is not coming down. So I think that is where the challenge is going to be.
So at the peak of the pandemic, we've seen the semiconductor challenge really affect the auto companies, and it really took its time to play out and actually settle. Now, again, we are seeing the COVID surge, and this time it's not just the semiconductor shortage, perhaps, that we'll have to deal with. This could affect consumer durables as well. Let's find out by how much. Saurabh Gupta is joining us, CFO at Dixon Technologies. Great to have you with us, Mr. Gupta. Do tell us, at a time that so much hope is pegged on India's ability to pull off the business of manufacturing from China, along comes another COVID surge in China. So a lot of Indian manufacturing, especially when it comes to consumer durables, that depends on components that companies like yours import from China. I'm asking you, how much disruption in supply lines are you seeing already, and how much more do you foresee?
So I would say that clearly we had advanced a lot of our orders. We had preponed our shipments. We've clearly seen this coming, and the reason, so clearly we advanced our orders, and we have stocked up our inventory for at least till end of February. So we are adequately covered till end of February. But we are, of course, monitoring this whole situation very closely. China, of course, goes into the new year on January 20th and comes back. The people come back in the first week of February. So otherwise also we would have imported a lot of components, because this is more of an annual phenomena. But yes, if the situation persists after the New Year's, and if the COVID situation in China gets worsened, which may have an impact, and the Chinese government takes a drastic step of putting some lockdowns there, then the whole supply chains can get impacted, and which will lead to some non-availability of electronic and consumer durable products somewhere during March, April, and May month. So as of now, we are fine. We are covered till February. But yeah, one has to wait and watch, and hopefully be cautiously hopeful that things get back to normal.
Fair enough. So that's the hope. Until February, companies like yours are covered. But like they say, Mr. Gupta, when China sneezes, the world catches a cold. Tell us about how much the Indian consumer durables industry actually relies on China right now. How much the reliance has changed also since the pandemic broke.
Yes, so dependency is quite high, I would say, especially in our mobile and LED TV category. In a lighting and washing machine category, a lot of substitution, domestic manufacturing has actually happened, and a lot of that will actually play out in the next couple of years. But we're clearly seeing that the government policy is clearly aligned towards creating a big component system in India. A big scale is getting created in manufacturing in India, and with scale, the component ecosystem also evolves. So it's a journey. My sense is every year the dependency on imports will keep getting diluted. So we are also working, our vendor partners are also working on creating alternate sources within India. But yes, of course, in a short period of time, it's difficult to create those alternate sources. But yes, over a period of time, India will definitely emerge as a decent manufacturing hub for components as well. But as of now, yeah, dependency in some verticals is high. In some verticals, I think so, it's fine.
Talking about these verticals, Mr. Gupta, within the consumer durables business, which are the most susceptible to the Chinese COVID challenge right now? Which products would get most affected? And it's going to take time for the Indian manufacturing business to really do that catch-up game when it comes to really being Atmanirbhar on that count.
So one is mobiles, and second, I would say consumer electronic, which is LED TV category. I think so. There's significant dependency on China for import of critical components there, and I would think it will take time for India to get self-sufficient in these categories. Mobile definitely would happen slightly faster because clearly the mobile policy, the mobile production link incentive scheme of the government is clearly aimed towards making India as part of the global supply chains, creating a component ecosystem, making India as a manufacturing hub. And a lot of bigger global giants are committing larger investments in India. So they will also get the component guys also in India. So my sense is the value addition in mobile phones should increase. But yeah, as of now, to answer your question, the dependency in both mobiles as well as TV, it's quite high today.
Right. So, of course, it is something that is imperative to build over a period of time. And like you said, it does take its time. But as a contract manufacturer of televisions and washing machines and smartphones and LEDs yourself, you make them for companies like Samsung and Xiaomi and Philips. How are you gearing up? You did mention how you're covered for any kind of component supply disruptions from China until February. But what is the larger industry practice? Help us understand that, because typically I understand that inventories are held for up to a month, isn't it? That's a larger industry practice.
Yeah, absolutely. You are right. So generally, in a normal scenario, we maintain inventories for around 30-35 days. But in such kind of a scenario, we have now stocked up our inventories for at least 2 months. And one has to wait and watch once the new year, once after the new year, what is the situation, whether people resume factory with full production, the workers in China come back, and also hopefully the COVID situation doesn't get worsened there. If it gets worsened and some kind of lockdowns happen there, then I think so we will have some trouble and the supply chains will get impacted for the period of March and beyond that.
Also, as an extension, Mr. Gupta, I wanted to know, because India is known for its jugaad, do you see Indians innovating, finding ways out of any component supply disruptions from China just yet? Perhaps our startup ecosystem could help. Do you see that happening on this count in any way so far?
In short term, it's difficult. It's short term, the dependency is high. As I said, over a period of time, this will keep getting addressed. But short term, it's very difficult to diversify the supply chains or de-risk the supply chains. The dependency is high, and especially in some of the product categories.
Fair enough. So innovations would have to wait right now, and we'll have to really deal with the situation as it emerges. Like you said, we have to be cautiously optimistic because many of these manufacturers are covered until February. What happens after that, if the COVID surge continues in China, and whether those disruptions mean that we are not able to manufacture the kind of consumer durable goods that we have been, and whether that disrupts the entire manufacturing story for India, that is something that we are watching very closely. Mr. Gupta, it's a pleasure having you with us. Saurabh Gupta joining us from Dixon Technologies.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.